Hello, everyone. Brady, Garriet, we're here. No Charlie, and we've taken a little bit of time off. You know, it is the holiday season. My birthday was last weekend. It was one of those deals. I kind of forgot about it, and after discussion, we realized that last week's wrestling was not the greatest thing to talk about. You know, it's okay to talk about some negative things, but this week was much better. But the week last week was not exactly. I didn't want to sit on here and be negative for an hour, and I don't think you did either, Garrett.
Nah.
So basically, let me X out of the stream that I got going on here, make sure my interwebs are working properly. So let's just get right into it, man. Stop the presses. We got a lot of news to cover. All right, so I'll basically just break down what's going on, and then I'll throw it over to you. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right, so first bit of news. Vince McMahon has sold 1%, around 1% of the company in shares that he holds, which equals about $23 million. A couple points of this. Number one, probably that $23 million is going towards the XFL, which is set to launch in 2020. And also that means that the company is worth around $2.3 billion. So even though we criticize WWE and people say that they're not the company that they used to, having a company that's worth $2.3 billion is still pretty damn successful, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, and that says a lot. You have enough merch and you have enough other stuff that you have that's not just, the network subscriptions help, but then you have the live events that also produce money. I mean, they've got a lot of avenues of cash flow. So from a business perspective, it makes complete sense that even though their ratings aren't great, they would still be making a decent amount of money because television isn't the only way you make money.
Right, exactly. I mean, I don't even want to know how much merch they sell. And I think WWE is really smart. You see, like once a month, you always get those sales and they pop up on Raw saying like tonight only, buy one, get one t-shirts, or like buy some sort of merch and get another piece for $1 or
Big
whatever.
pay-per-view sales too. Big four pay-per-views always have huge sales on the t-shirts and stuff.
It's a great marketing strategy because yes, their profit margin is going to be smaller, but WWE has so many different types of merch. It's one of those things where it's not like in the NFL where if you buy a sports jersey for the team, if I were to get a Patriots jersey and I were to get a Tom Brady jersey, I'm not really going to go out and get a jersey of another player for a while because it's still basically the same. Just you pick your player and that's how it is. Whereas with WWE, you could get shirts for 4, 5, 6 wrestlers and not really think about it. You'd be like, yeah, because they're all different. They're all their own brand pretty much. It's not, football, everyone plays for that team brand. But it's not like you're saying, oh, well, I got one WWE shirt, so there's no sense in getting another one.
Right. Like I've got two, and I literally just bought them. I bought a Baron Corbin and a Finn Balor shirt because they were two of the hottest guys at the time,
Exactly. So, I mean, good on them. I mean, and Vince McMahon, I mean, 1% of the company, 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, it kind of is. I mean, I think he's slowly giving up control of the company anyway, and how much more money does the guy really need at this point?
Right, exactly. He's been on the billionaires list. I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean,
Yep.
I think I saw something. Did he not become a billionaire again recently or something? Or was I just hearing stuff?
Well, it's tough because I don't think he has to release his salary or anything. So
no, not at all.
So it could all be fabricated stuff. Who knows?
Yeah, most of those net worth sites, I hate to break it to everyone, they're inaccurate. Anyone could just call it and change it.
Absolutely. It's like Wikipedia, man. So WWE's had a lot of recent signings, and they're still in the process of just trying to gobble up as much talent as possible. The recent name that's been popped out there over the past few days has been Kushida, who is currently the junior heavyweight champion over at New Japan. And he's known for being a great in-ring worker, as a lot of the guys in New Japan are. Bringing another great Japanese talent over, and it's not necessarily a done deal, but Wrestling Inc. reports that that WWE already has plans for a storyline in NXT, and I feel like they wouldn't start talking about storylines unless they were pretty confident they were going to get him. Do you think that's a big blow to New Japan, or do you think they can find someone to fill in that slot?
Oh, I absolutely think New Japan could definitely find someone to fill that slot. I think everybody that's not clamoring to get to WWE necessarily immediately is definitely trying to get there because that's the biggest place to get yourself noticed by the WWE and any other promotion you might want to work for is to go there and get broadcast out from like Tokyo Dome or something like that. Even if you're just like the background guy that's sitting by the match, you're still getting exposure. So they could definitely have no problem filling the slot. But does that mean it's not a blow to them? No, I think it still would be, because a lot of people still tune in for specific wrestlers in different promotions. So I don't think a lot of fans would go with them necessarily, but I mean, you don't know. I saw something about maybe there was some female talent they were looking at from Japan or something like that as well. So
yeah, I mean, basically WWE, from all reports, it seems like WWE just wants to get as much talent as possible. They just want to have the most stacked rosters ever, and then it's kind of a shame, because it's like WWE's trying to get as much indie guys as possible, and women as well. Just they're trying to sign as many indie wrestlers as possible, just so that these other companies can't have them, and because they don't want attention to be taken away from WWE, they want to stay on top. I mean, when you think about it, Yujiro Kushida is 35 years old. What theoretically could he come in and do in WWE? Would they actually give him a big spot? I don't think they would. I think they're just going to give him a lot of money. He comes in, he plays the player coach role, has a couple big matches on TakeOver, and then goes off into the sunset with his WWE paycheck, and that's it.
Could be.
That's tough. So a little bit of sad news on the injury report. Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss are still not cleared to wrestle. That's a big blow, considering the female rosters in WWE are not nearly as deep right now as the male rosters. Thank God we have, the likes of Ronda Rousey and Charlotte also doing very well. But not having those two girls between Alexa and Becky is definitely a big hit to WWE right now. I mean, how long do you think that they can go sustaining these feuds without either of those girls?
Well, I mean, obviously Becky can still be on TV, so that's good. But the thing that I think is interesting is she got cleared from her concussion, but her face is still broken. Like,
yeah,
that's the thing. She's just not able. I don't think she could take a bump right now. So why she's not been in the ring at all, despite her persona. And I think the thing about Alexa Bliss was there was like an incorrect report or something like that. I don't know. Don't hold me to that one. But I mean, I heard about it and then I was like, oh, she's back. Cool. And then I heard about it again and I was like, oh, she's not. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you always see news going back and forth, and it's tough because everything is hearsay in the news world. That's what kind of sucks, is that WWE was so tight-lipped for so long that now people don't know. And they were so closed. And then all of a sudden, WWE was leaking information left and right, and now it seems like they're trying to be more closed-lipped, but they enjoy playing with the media a little bit as far as insider information. So it's tough to actually make a call on those kinds of things. And then finally, I just wanted to get your opinion, Garrett, on Twitter and through many reports. Ember Moon's husband, Matthew Palmer, called Nia Jax, quote, an unsafe moron. Now, I want to ask you, how do you feel about spouses of wrestlers voicing their opinion, or even like parents I've seen on Twitter or just in interviews or whatever, voicing their opinion on other talent that their family has to work with? And do you think that it carries more weight since Matthew Palmer is a wrestler in his own right? Do you think that carries more weight, like it gives him more credibility, or no?
So, for one, if a wrestler is saying you're unsafe, you're unsafe. I'm just gonna throw that out there because the guy's probably worked with guys like that, almost definitely, actually, for sure. People have worked with unsafe people in the business, especially on indie shows. I do think being a wrestler does add a little bit more credibility to what he's saying. However, I will say this: if you're not in the company, if you weren't there that day, if you didn't see how she reacted backstage, we don't know. She could have immediately walked up to Becky and apologized and had, felt horrible about it. And then she just got put in this horrible situation where the people backstage were like, we want you to run with this. We know you're willing to, blah, blah, blah. And, has to say all this horrible stuff and do all this horrible stuff. Meanwhile, you're stuck in a mediocre storyline with a person who probably doesn't even want to be working with you, so. And then on top of that, you're in this title feud. So it's like, I want Ember Moon obviously to stay safe. But I think if you're not there, I don't think you should speak to it. And maybe that's how Ember feels, and she's just not willing to voice that because she doesn't want to get in trouble. But I mean, at the same time, watch out, dude. You may have just painted a target on Ember's back. We don't know what kind of woman Nia actually is,
And I mean, he doesn't have to be there to to face the consequences if Ember were to get heat. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. Is like you don't want.
Well, if she is unsafe, well, this is just what I was saying. If she is unsafe, and she's doing this on purpose, you may have just made her a target, and that could be really bad for Ember's future.
So hopefully that isn't the case. It seems like Nia had a lot of heat backstage, and he was just kind of echoing the sentiments of a lot of other people. But I mean, all it takes is if someone is vocal about one thing, they're going to be vocal about another. And hopefully he doesn't just continue being vocal and then say the wrong thing one of these times. And Ember, with all that talent and how young she is, hopefully, you know, it doesn't screw her over. You know?
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's talk about our first class segments of the week. Something we really, really liked this week, Garrett. There was some good with the bad this week, which is more honestly than I can say. Last week's Raw was rated as one of the worst ever, and we're going to touch on that in just a little bit. But let's talk about some things that we liked. What did you really like this week?
So there was a triple threat match with all the members of this tag feud that's going into TLC on Lay SmackDown. So this is like an example of when you can tell when two people that work together in tags both have individually good wrestling skills. And that's true for the Usos. That's true for Sheamus and Cesaro. And that is also true for the New Day, because the New Day were all independently good before they formed into a tag team. You know what I mean? So, and so it's like, what do you know, it's funny because you have 3 New Day members that are really good, 2 people on the bar and 2 people on the Usos. They're all really good. So this match was, I don't know why no one thought this match was going to be really good, but everyone seemed surprised that they liked this match so much. I heard all kinds of podcasts talking about, yeah, this was the only good thing or whatever, because a lot of people are still down on it on the podcasts. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So what did you think of it?
I mean, I personally love just triple threat matches. I feel like we don't get them on TV a lot. Fatal 4-ways are usually easier for the wrestlers because it's okay. 2 people will fight in the ring, 2 people will get knocked out, and then you kind of one by one come in. But you can't really do that as much with the triple threat because then it looks stupid for one person to be on the outside. Unless you run the classic 2 people are friends and they're going against the one, it's the 2 heels that team up to go against a face. You beat down the face, and then the 2 heels have to fight until the face comes back and wins it at the end. I'm glad that they don't have to do that with this. And I'm excited for the match at the pay-per-view. I think TLC is looking like a really good pay-per-view, honestly, which is good because I believe TLC is the last pay-per-view before Royal Rumble, right?
I can verify that. Hold on.
Yeah, you can look it up, but I'm almost positive that TLC is right before Royal Rumble, which makes sense because the mixed match challenge finals, the tag team that wins that, they get to be entrant number 30 in their respective Royal Rumbles. And so
who won that? I didn't see.
I don't know who the winner is, but my guess is that it was going to be R-Truth and Carmella. They backed themselves into a little bit of a corner because there were people that were wrestling that already have matches on TLC. So I think it was probably going to be R-Truth and Alexa, or Carmella. But if it's not, then it's fine. But yeah, my first class segment of the week. I love everything that SmackDown is currently doing with AJ Styles, The Miz, and Daniel Bryan. This turn of Daniel Bryan has made everything so interesting because I think people want The Miz and Daniel Bryan to headline a WrestleMania. I think people have been wanting that for a while, but people also want Daniel Bryan headlining. I think WWE knew, okay, well, we don't want to run the risk of, okay, people really want The Miz and Daniel Bryan to face at Mania, and that deserves to be the title feud. But they don't want people to get so behind Daniel Bryan that a repeat happens of WrestleMania 30 and people end up booing Styles and Miz because Daniel Bryan wasn't in the main event. So they turn Bryan heel, and now there are so many things that you can do with this feud because we saw, well, maybe is The Miz now a face if they're going to go with Daniel Bryan as a pure heel? Is AJ Styles still the pure white meat babyface that we saw before? Because now he's starting to team up with The Miz, who's been a heel for so long. You can see a lot of heel tendencies in all these guys and a lot of face tendencies because you still don't want to believe Daniel Bryan as a character is still completely a heel, even though he's doing a great job at it, by the way. But it's just a lot of people are holding out hope. They're like, no, not Daniel Bryan. Like, out of anybody, he's the one that's going to stick around and be a face. And so at Mania, we could see a heel Daniel Bryan, a face Miz, and a tweener AJ Styles, and a triple threat for the title main eventing. And I would be very, very happy with that. If we saw AJ Styles win the title back at Royal Rumble and the Miz win the Royal Rumble to get back into that main event slot, I would absolutely love that.
Yeah, it would be really interesting because it's funny because like I don't think if before Bryan had turned heel, if you'd have told me this would be potentially like the triple threat going into Mania, I'd have been like, oh, that's gonna be boring. It's gonna be two faces and a heel, which never works out in the balance of power and a feud like that. It ends up just being the faces teaming up on the heel, and then it doesn't work out because then you get a great match between those two, but then the heel comes back and wins at the end because they got knocked out early on. That's predictable.
It would have been the standard what we saw before, the respect between Bryan and Styles, even and it's always better to have the faces chasing the heel. So if Daniel Bryan is the champion going into Mania somehow, if he wins it back in between Rumble and Mania, there's so many different ways they can go with it. And I love how these guys, I don't really care who ends up being a face or a heel at Mania. I just think these three guys work together so well, they're going to make anything work. So WWE virtually can't screw this up if they decide to go this way with the match and do a triple threat. I think that these guys are so talented, both on the mic and in the ring, that they'll make it work regardless of what WWE says their character should or shouldn't be.
Can't believe you said it. It's going to happen now. You said they can't screw it up.
I know.
You jinxed it.
Somehow Undertaker will come in and cash in a Money in the Bank that he won in 1995 on a house show. All right.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously, you got to take the good with the bad. And sometimes
getting on the top floor in the high rank district. Here we go.
You just do this. Sometimes you just gotta do that double backflip, that double moonsault face plant and straight into the mat. And that's what happened. We've had this thing, okay? We've had this team, Garrett, go on. And honestly, I like them. They're good. I'm down with Lucha House Party. I'm down with the tag team. They're exciting. They're fun to watch. However, I don't understand how Lucha House rules means that they can be 3-on-2 or 3-on-1, as we saw this week, against anybody. How is that a face move? How can the face announcers justify a 3-on-1 handicap match as like, this is fun, this is great, Lucha House rules, the Revival didn't see that one coming. How is this not a heel move?
It is completely because, well, like, let's be real for a second. Who was the last person that put 2 or 3 people, like, in the last couple of weeks? Who was the one person that's been putting 2 and 3 people against, like, that literally happened to Finn Balor last week, I'm pretty sure, or 2 weeks ago.
You have the heel GM making handicap matches, but then Lucha House rules are fun.
It's so inconsistent. The storytelling is off. But the truth is, we talked about this a little bit. It could be building to some kind of double turn where the Revival become faces. I don't know what that's going to do because I don't think anyone would not buy them as faces at this point because they've never done a heel thing. I mean, other than their debut, like, what dastardly things have they done?
Right.
So it's like, maybe that's what we need. I have no idea.
Like, the Revival comes out and basically just says, we don't have any tricks. We're just going to punch you in the face and win.
Yeah.
That's a face move.
It is.
Like, them being like, you know what? We're upstanding wrestlers. We're the best in the world, and we're going to just kick your ass.
It makes so much sense to put these two against each other because they're the ultimate in lucha and they're the ultimate in anti-lucha, like.
Hold on. Breaking news. Screen share.
Oh, no.
Okay. So a little bit before I screen share. Garrett, I've been watching, you've heard of the Call of Duty World League. You've heard me talking about it before.
Yeah.
So obviously it's professional Call of Duty. We got Blackouts 4 this year. Everyone's really hyped about it. And, I've been kind of following it as the podcast is going. I just went to go refresh Twitter, and I thought my eyes were deceiving me, but they were not. We have Baron Corbin replying to a tweet of the currently ongoing COD World League. I think we should make an appearance. Baron Corbin wants to enter the Fort Worth Open event for the COD World League with the goats. I don't know who's the sweets. I don't know.
Is that one of the guys that Xavier picked up recently for Up Down Down? Maybe.
Probably it's a.
Because remember they added a bunch of people like last 2 years that were not wrestlers. I was like, what?
Yeah,
okay.
three TV guys making fun of each other, gaming and doing it poorly. I don't know the background of this, but the fact that Baron Corbin just.
Hey, Ty Dillinger getting a shout out. He never gets it on WWE TV.
That is so cool, man. If we had this team, I don't know who Sweets is, but if we had this team going to a COD World League event, you better believe I'm tuning in.
Dude, you know they would make Baron Corbin a professional wrestling belt if he won the Call of Duty World League.
That would be awesome, man. I love that, man. Look at my guys like crossing through. I mean, because you don't see a lot of crossover between COD World League and WWE, and the fact that happened during the podcast makes me very happy.
Well, if you remember, they did the esports thing during TakeOver, I want to say.
Yeah.
So they're involved with esports. Maybe WWE's making a move.
Do you think Tyler Breeze is really good at video games? Out of those,
I know he's really good. I watched him and Xavier Woods play an old WWE game. I want to say, I don't remember which one it was off the top of my head. It was one of the ones with GM mode on it anyway, and maybe 2008. And he was really meticulously good at that, and he remembered stuff from like 10 years before. Right. So if he's that good at that, and that's just a WWE game that wasn't even good, maybe he's just good at video games. We know people like that, you know?
I mean, chances are they'd go get knocked out by a bunch of 16-year-olds, but it'd be kind of fun to watch.
Imagine if they made it a couple of rounds in or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, and then even if they lost at that point.
If they got to play like a higher tier open bracket team, like where there's actual players that I know, that would be really cool. All right. Anyway. What did you not like this week? I didn't like Lucha House Rules. What was grinding your gears?
So to open up Raw, we had what was going to be a tag team match that didn't end up happening. I believe. I think this is when it ended up getting scheduled as the main event later on because of this. But we had Natalya and Ronda Rousey about to face off with Tamina and Nia, I believe. And then all of a sudden, the Riot Squad appear from nowhere, like Team Rocket, and suddenly there's a table down there, and apparently they didn't think it was a good idea, and I'll get into why this is a big deal in a second, but they had them take the table from the back down the ramp and then sat it by the ring, and then as soon as they were ready to put Natalya through it, which took way too long, by the way, they moved the table over slowly, and then she just gets put through the table. And it's like, okay, the whole point of a tables match, and this is literally going into TLC, the whole point of having the tables under the ring in non-TLC type matches is because it builds anticipation in like an Extreme Rules match for when you pull the table out, then when it gets put down, and then they get potentially all for falling through it. Oh no, it's not gonna happen. Then you get 2 or 3 spots of almost falling through the table, usually, and then someone gets put through the table. Or sometimes it's an immediate shock value. Oh my gosh, they went through the table, you know?
Right.
So that was just, it was so stupid. I don't use that word to describe wrestling very much, but I've used it on 2 different podcasts recently to describe wrestling. It is stupid. It is just badly booked. And I give shout outs to Taz for that little bit about the table, because I hadn't thought about that personally, but when he said that, it made sense. I was like, I don't think about that, but when I'm watching a wrestling show, that's exactly what happens. I start building it up in my head. Oh, the table's out there. Who's going to go through it? Who's going to go through it? And then someone goes through it, and I'm like, whoa. Not this time. I was just like, oh, there's the table.
I wish they would do that more. Something that I love. So I don't know if you've ever watched the show Penn and Teller Fool Us. I don't even know if you like magic.
Great show.
But I watched that show like anytime I have some spare time. And I love how with the comedy magic, and just a lot of magicians do this. They know that people go to a magic show. People go because they want to look like idiots. But what happens is that the magicians, they have this bit of like meta aspect to it, where they know that people are going to be looking for them. If they're doing a trick with cards, they're going to do they know that people are going to look for them doing a technique called palming. So like when they put their hand over here, they know that the smart fans are going to be looking for that. And they actually use like a fake trick as a distraction because they know people are going to be looking for that specific trick when they're actually doing something else. And so like I wish WWE would do that more. Like I like set up a table, and then what if someone just doesn't go through it? Like I don't know. Like I know that seems kind of lame, but it's like like there's no reason why or at least how like Tommaso Ciampa has been doing on takeovers, how he's been like peeling up the mat, and then like kind of they wait a long time. They have to give you time to forget about some things, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, I totally forgot about that because he took the padding off of the ring post like 8 minutes ago, so I haven't even been thinking about that. And then all of a sudden, boom, it comes up. Then it surprises you. It seems like WWE, it's like, oh, here we go. They're setting up a table, so now someone's going to go through it, and there he goes.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there was like 2 table spots in the NXT TakeOver War Games match, and neither one of them really felt that impactful. They were just like there was one that was crazy, but it's just another table spot at this point.
Yeah. Speaking of great spots, just going back to it, to your triple threat match, Cesaro might be the most underutilized talent WWE's ever had.
Agreed.
And I know that he's like a multiple-time tag champ now, and I think he won the U.S. title and stuff like that. But like, man, Cesaro really could have like carried the company at one point in time, and it would have been great when he was coming out in the shades and he had the 007 gimmick looking. Like he could have been like a James Bond villain type character, and it would have been amazing.
Oh, absolutely. He came in, I believe, as an Antonio Cesaro as a heel, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, and that was probably just on NXT, but I mean,
he's only 37. Like, they could still do something with him, but it's just, I mean, he's just still a physical freak. I feel like it's just such wasted talent. And it's so weird because he doesn't seem, young at all now, but 37 in WWE years, I mean, Jesus, we're rolling out people in their 60s now. I mean, he's theoretically got a ways to go.
Let me point out, this guy was the guy that Sami Zayn tried his DDT through the ring, or like through the ring post spot for the first time with.
Yep.
That was with Cesaro. So it must be pretty good if Sami Zayn trusts the guy to do that.
No, absolutely. I mean, we should make a list. I want to do another like specialty video. Charlie and I were talking about doing some football ones, but we should do a specialty video, like a rankings video or something. It'll be fun. We get Dan to make some graphics.
Be good.
It would be really good. All right. You don't have to put any time on the clock, but I'm quickly going to break down the rest of the card, and you can talk about something on Raw if we forgot to talk about it and you really wanted to touch on it.
Really quickly, just so we have one little out of wrestling thing this week. The Avengers 4 and Captain Marvel's trailers dropped this week, and we're potentially getting Spider-Man Far From Home tomorrow. So just for all the rest of the Marvel people out there, I saw both of those 2 trailers so far. They both look awesome. I don't know why a lot of people are having a negative take on the Captain Marvel stuff. It looked really good to me. And
I haven't seen the Avengers thing. It dropped today, but I really need to see the trailer.
Definitely check that out after we get done here. But for sure, definitely if you guys are into the Marvel MCU thing, or even just into Marvel Comics and you haven't gotten into those movies yet, definitely check those trailers out because they look sick.
And I don't want to be that weird. Like, people are going to be like, oh, well, social justice warrior or whatever. But I still think it's not a conscious thing, but I feel like some people still subconsciously don't believe that a woman could be the single-handed savior of the Marvel universe.
Oh, no, absolutely. And that's totally the way they're positioning it.
Like,
it's also, if you go by the timeline, she'll be the first hero that ever came into that world. So, because it's going to take place in the 90s. So, also, we're getting a young-looking Samuel L. Jackson in that, which means that technology is on point.
Yeah.
So, seriously, like, we've seen some bad ones, but like that, it looks good.
And I know this is probably a long shot, and I know we talked about Stan Lee passing on the last podcast we did a couple weeks ago. I would not put it, because he was, 91 when he passed, I think?
Something like that.
Stan Lee was pretty damn old, all right? He was kind of ready to go. He lived a full life. I would not put it past that man, after the Avengers 4 comes out, after Captain Marvel, Avengers 4, after we kind of get through this next cycle of Avengers, I would not put it past Stan Lee for him to already have a movie made about himself, with himself starring in it.
Some people have suggested that. I think people for years wanted to make a superhero that was him, like he was playing a superhero or something. Hopefully, if they got that chance.
Could you imagine if he ends up being the one to save the day in Avengers 4 and the tears that would happen in the movie theater?
Like, yeah, like everything happens, like the heroes get it, like everything but that little 10th degree, and then like they drop something that they need for the component or something like that, and then he's just like, here, and you're like, oh.
Or like he ends up being the one to like sacrifice himself at the end and writes himself out of the Marvel
universe. Like maybe to reverse everything. This is spoilers, by the way, spoiler territory for everyone that hasn't seen Infinity War. Maybe to reverse the snap, you have to sacrifice yourself, and everyone's like, Tony's like, I'll do it, and Cap is like, I'll do it, and then everyone else is like, no, I'll do it, and then he's like, you guys could use a hand or something like that, you know?
I'm just saying, man, if Stan Lee's cameo is not the thing that sends everyone into tears in Avengers 4, I will be very sad.
It's called, I don't want to ruin it for anyone that hasn't seen it yet, but so if you don't want to know what the title is, if you want to see it in the trailer, I recommend you click off right now, but it's called Avengers Endgame.
Okay.
So it's going to be interesting.
I'm cool with it. And theoretically, it's fine for it to be an Endgame because then they can always go back and write a prequel.
Right, this is the end of Phase 3, so if they want to explain more stuff, they can always do that. You're right.
Yep. Anyway, so for the rest of Raw, we didn't have much. We had Rousey and Natalya versus Nia Jax and Tamina, lame. Alexa Bliss, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and an open blah, blah, blah. The women's segments were not that great this week. We already talked about Lucha House Party. I think Baron Corbin has kind of stepped into his own. Something I want to touch on a little bit. I don't agree. I'm okay with them splitting up Ziggler and McIntyre because they both deserve to be singles wrestlers. And two heels kind of going their separate ways out of respect is not a heel thing to do. So they kind of have to fight. I don't like Ziggler going over McIntyre clean because I feel like you've been building up McIntyre for a long time. Bobby Lashley, I think it's about time Bobby Lashley is interesting. And he works great with Elias. And I think Leo Rush is a great thing. Yep.
Murdered by Elias.
Drake Maverick getting the pin on AOP. Drake Maverick getting the pin over AOP on Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, I think is hilarious. And then I think Dean Ambrose is finally coming into his own as well. Talking about people coming into their own. I love it. That's kind of it. I mean, Finn Balor versus Jinder Mahal. Do we really need to talk about that? I don't think so. And then over on SmackDown, kind of uneventful. SmackDown does a good job of just having long segments, though. Kind of letting people get their time. And it's about time that WWE starts recognizing Asuka, and apparently the only reason they're giving Asuka the time of day is that reaction that she got 2 weeks ago, which is crazy. It
really shifted from the beginning of the show to the end, I guarantee. I guarantee they had someone else walking out of that Battle Royal, and then they were like, we can't.
Yeah, I mean, apparently when she got that reaction, when Becky was picking the person to replace her for the last pay-per-view for Evolution, I guess that's what put it over the edge was WWE did not think that people were going to be that behind Asuka since she's been off TV hasn't been successful on TV for a while. I love that. Whatever town that was, thank you. We saw Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy again. You want to talk about that for an hour? All right. AJ Styles versus The Miz was a very good match, and I thought Daniel Bryan was a little annoying on commentary, but that's just me.
Yeah, a lot of people really praised that.
I guess he's a heel. I guess it's good, but
he's an eco-terrorist or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the way they're going with it.
Is Daniel Bryan wrong talking about how we're destroying?
No, that's the weird part. The heel's usually not right.
The heel, I mean, everything he said was completely. Maybe the truth hurts, right?
That's true. And definitely lots of people don't like to hear the truth. They'd rather hear like a pleasant lie than an ungreat truth. You
know what? I got the 4-cylinder Tacoma instead of the 6-cylinder, so I'm helping save the earth a little bit. All right.
I don't have a car, so.
There you go. All right. Garrett, what do you got going on this week, man? We're creeping into the holiday season. Any good presents you want to tell us about? What have you bought people?
Oh, I'm broke, so nothing. Yeah, literally, I have no money, so sad day for everybody else. I'm apologizing.
I feel that on a philosophical level. If someone wants to PayPal me some money, you let me know. Hit me up on Twitter because I had to put my rent on a credit card. Garrett, dude, come down here, get a job. You just move down here. You live at my place. I'll charge you minimal rent. I'll charge you like $500 rent because that'll help me. That's really cheap for rent. You get a good paying job down here. You can work at Target with Charlie. It'll be good.
Well, I could probably, here, if I wait long enough, I'll have my degree, so.
And that too.
I could do that.
And yeah, I think that's it. So that'll do. Make sure you like and subscribe and click that bell, when we go live.
Ding.
And, until next time, guys. Hopefully Charlie will be back. We'll be back. We'll see you later, and follow us on Twitter at Visoki Tweets.